All right. So on Friday, JD Vance went over to Europe and chastised them for, like, calling off elections and being censorious and all the things that they do. And he said our shared values, right? And the rest of that statement was our shared values as white people. Now, I've never really liked the term white people, right? And the reason why I've never really liked the term is because, like, it's a fucking dumb term. And it's actually a newer term, right? In the end of the day, it's not as new as a lot of terms are, right? You know what I mean? Like the idea of, like a fucking teenager and all this type of stuff. Like these things came around in the 60s and 70s. This term white people comes around at the age of exploration. Once, you know what I'm saying? Like you have Europeans mixing in with the rest of, like the indigenous peoples here in the Americas, right? But at the moment, I wanted to stand here and, like, go through what is actually like meant by all these things, right? So let's start off with, like, where the term white people came from, right? A social category formed by colonialism. Like, yeah, listen, this is a lot. This is gonna be a lot of like Marxist sounding stuff in this one. I'll be honest with you, and I apologize for that. But like sometimes, you know, you're gonna have to take a trip into like some academic type of things, right? Like in order to understand shit, you're gonna have to get into like the etymology and get into like the whole like history of things and understand like where all this comes from. This is what it is. All right, so a three-part racial scheme in color terms was used in 17th century Latin America, that'd be 1600s, and under Spanish rule. Irene Silverblatt traces the race thinking, Silverblatt, of course, is a Jew, right, in South America to the social categories of colonialism and the state formation. White, black, and brown are abridged, abstracted versions of colonizer, slave, and colonized. By the mid 17th century, the novel term Espanol, Spaniard, was being equated with written documents with Blanco or white. So this is literally like just trying to separate out two different peoples inside of a given area, right? In Spain's American colonies, black, African, indigenous, Indios, Jewish, or Morisco ancestry formally excluded individuals from purity of blood. Requirements for holding any public office under the Royal Pragmatic of 1501. Similar restrictions applied in the military, some religious orders, colleges, and universities, leading to a nearly all-white priesthood and professional stratum. Blacks and Indios were subject to tribute obligations and forbidden to bear arms, and black and India women were forbidden to wear jewels, silk, or precious metals in early colonial Mexico and Peru. These Pardo, people with dark skin, and mulattoes, people of mixed African and European ancestry, were resources largely sought to evade these restrictions by passing as white. A brief royal offer to buy the privileges of whiteness for a substantial sum of money attracted 15 applicants before pressure from white elites ended the practice. In the British colonies in North America, the Caribbean, and the designation English or Christian was initially used to contrast Native Americans or Africans, right? Early appearances of white race or white people in the Oxford English Dictionary began in the 1680s, right, which I looked it up. Historian Winthrop Jordan reports that throughout the 13 colonies, the terms Christian, free, English, and white were employed indiscriminately in the 17th century as proxies for one another. In 1680s, Morgan Godwin found it necessary to explain to English readers that in Barbados, white was the general term for Europeans. Several historians report a shift towards greater use of white as a legal category, alongside a hardening of restrictions on free Christian blacks. White remained a more familiar term in the American colonies and in Britain well into the 18th century, according to a historian. All right, so understanding that, right? Get the fact that like white was not like a thing until like we started having like slavery in America, right? Because like they wanted to be able to like identify two different people, right? And that was back when it was mostly all just English. There was no like Germans, there weren't, Italians, they weren't French, there weren't, like Polish, right? There weren't anybody the fuck else here. It was just the Anglos, right? So like literally like when they just said white, they just meant English, right? At the end of the day. So this is how we're going to break this down, right? I actually, like, listen, I made all this stuff, right? Like from scratch. So, like, listen, I hope y'all enjoy. Like, I literally, like, put some, like, work into the slideshow right here. We're going to go through imperial status, corporate status, national status, ethnicity, and your local shit, right? So, let's get started with the imperial status, okay? See, I haven't color coordinated them. Look, bro. Look, like, wait. Look. I color coordinated stuff, bro. Like, I'm on it. You know what I'm saying? All right. So, what government owns you is your imperial status, right? It's the United States, Mexico, Canada, China, Japan. Pick your country, right? Whatever country owns you, that is your imperial status. So, like, when the rest of the world hears what you say, right? That, you know what I'm saying? Like, like when they hear your accent of where you're from, they know who you are. Right. So like when we're talking to Europeans, they go, oh, fucking Americans. When we talk to Europeans, like, you fucking silly Europeans. Right. You know what I mean? Or we say you silly German, or you silly British, or you silly Aussie, whatever the case is. These are imperial statuses. Okay. Oh, hang on. Boom. Next one. Okay. So your corporate designation. Now, this is important to understand that, like, a corporate designation is, hang on, bro. Like, listen, I wrote all this stuff down. A non-identifiable traits, easily grouped together for advertisers, hiring managers, and government bureaucrats. Like, I literally wrote this, like, without looking at anything. I'm going to keep it a bone, right? And I've been working on this for about, like, 25 minutes, so please forgive me if I trip over things, right? All right, so these traits, right, are examples would be white, black, Hispanic, Asian, indigenous, veteran, trans, gay, or a single mom, right? So these type of things are things that are universal, right? Everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, you're always a veteran, right? Like, if you're a veteran in Texas or you're a veteran in Maine, you're still a veteran, right? If you're white, you know what I mean, in Texas, you're white in, like, fucking, you know what I mean, Maine, right? Same shit. Black, same thing. Hispanic, same thing. Asian, same thing. If you're a Native American, you're a Native American. Trans, you're still trans. If you're gay, you're still gay. If you're a single mom, you're still a single mom. These are identifiable traits that are easily advertisable and will write down on paperwork. Important stuff to understand. Like, these are things that, like, HR cares about, advertisers care about, the government cares about. These are corporate statuses, okay, or corporate designations. Also, generational dividers is also a corporate status. Baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, Zoomers, alphas, and betas. Again, these are about advertisers. This is about money. This is about corporations. This is about the government is a corporation. It's incorporated, right? All these type of things, okay? Understand, this is your corporate designation, all right, as a whole. Anytime you say any of these things, right, you're saying corporate designations. That's why, like, when they look at your age, they go, oh, man, listen, he's part of this age cohort. How it works. Your ethnicity, okay? So, what's in your blood? Are your people from Italy, France, Zaire, China, Mexico? Where are your ancestors from? Okay? This, all right, as we go down through, and by the way, as we're going down through, each of these will have a smaller group, which is why we have this pyramid the way we have this pyramid, right? So, like, your imperial status is what the world looks at you as, right? Your corporate status is what, like, your people inside of, like, your imperial status will look at you. So if you're an American, your corporate status will be identified by other Americans. Okay. Now, your nationality, like your national your ethnicity, right? Which, by the way, I have these fucking backwards. I should really have, like, my nationality thing, like, above my ethnicity thing. So let me move this down here real quick. Hang on. We'll do this way. Make it real easy, right? Okay. And we're going to fucking turn this on. There we go. Right. So, like, when you're looking at this, right, what's happening is each time you go down, right, these things, like, become identifiable by less and less people. You know what I'm saying? So, your nationality. Okay. So, what would someone of your corporate designation say you are? So, if you're white or American, what would you tell them to identify who you are or where you're from? Right? Or where you are from or who you are. So, basically, right, you know what I mean, what we're looking at is that, so you're going down the pyramid, right? So, as you're going from, like, your corporate status to your national status, you know what I'm saying? Like, hang on, we'll do, like, goddamn stupid thing. I swear to God. Hold that there. Okay. So, like, as we're going down through, look at it like this, right? So, like, the imperial status matters, right? Or your corporate status matters to, like, the imperial shit, right? Your corporate status, the national status matters to the corporate status, right? So, like, as you're identifying each of these groups, right? Each of these groups, you know what I'm saying? Like, becomes, like, a smaller thing, right? In the end of the day, becomes more exclusive. So, now, what would be like examples of nationalities? What is your nation? Texas, New England, New York, Appalachia, PA, the South, Midwest, California. It could be a city like Philly, Detroit, Washington D.C., Atlanta. Right? Each of these are nationalities. These is like when you say, listen, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you know what I mean? He's a trans motherfucker, right? Like, when you hear him and all of a sudden has a weird accent as a trans dude, like, yo, bro, where the fuck are you from? Right? You know what I mean? Like, again, what you're doing is you're asking them their nationality, right? Like, oh, man, listen, I'm from like Atlanta or whatever, right? Oh, like, oh, you must be a black dude from Atlanta with AIDS, right? That's how the hell, like, you identify the nationality. But that only matters, again, to people of your same corporate status, right? And people of your same imperial status, your ethnicity. Okay. Now, so once you get down to the level of where, like, okay, you're inside of your own shit, right? You know what I mean? You start looking at what's in your blood, who your people from, Italy, France, Zaire, China, Mexico, where are your ancestors from. This matters to people who are part of your own nation. So inside of your nation, right? Well, if you're in Appalachia, you know what I mean? There's a difference between a Scotch Irish and a German and an Italian, right? These are different people. Puerto Ricans are different people. Each of these individuals and each of these groups are different inside of there. But outside of there, everybody just sees you as an Appalachian. Get what I'm saying? Right? That's how this works, right? So somebody in, like, I don't know, like fucking Germany doesn't understand that there's a difference between somebody from Michigan and Detroit and somebody from, you know what I mean, like Kansas City or Tulsa, right? They don't know that they're different type of people. They have no clue. They just see them all as Americans, right? But us Americans, we go, oh man, listen, like there's a big difference between somebody from Detroit and somebody from Kansas City. Get where I'm at, right? So, and then once you get down to the point where you're on a local level, you know what I'm saying? Like where you're like, oh man, listen, I'm in my nation, right? Depending on how big that nation is, right? As a whole, and even then that can change, right? Each people inside of your nations will separate themselves out as different things, right? And then you got your local identity, okay? Your local identity, which is like your community as a whole, right? What separates you from others in your community? Local identities: job, neighborhood, family, religion, school, class. Where'd you go to school? Like in my neighborhood, right? You have people who went to East, went to CD, went to the Berg, right? They went to William Penn, right? There's a big difference between people from Penn and people who went to, and listen, I don't even remember the name of that school anymore. To be honest, it's terrible. I don't remember the name of the other fucking school. Oh, Penn and Harris, right? Like, yo, there's Harris High School and then there's William Penn High School, right? These were two different motherfucking places. And like, oh, you have two different friend groups. You have two different, you know what I mean, like, fucking places that you went to eat, all these type of things. But these are all people in like the same local area, right? And also you have like Bishop McDevitt, which is a religious school, which means like you were much more upper class, right? And you can have like upper class people in an area, right, who would be considered lower class elsewhere. And so like each of these are identifiable markers, right? And each of these is like how we look at things. And like the problem is that like we are not like a nation of people in America, right? And when we go like our shared values in Europe, tying it back to the J.D. Vance thing, why? Are we Europeans? I feel like we're not, right? And we're having a hard time with that at the moment, right? This is like a hard thing that we're dealing with because like we want economic growth and economic stability because of like, like economies of scale work better that way. But on the same level, culturally and like family and spiritually wise, that shit's kind of fucked. You know what I mean? And it kind of leaves everybody in limbo and like everybody ends up stripped out of their own shit. It's like you're chasing, you know what I mean? Like everybody else down the toilet and you're all just kind of like becoming economic units. And the best that we can do is have like, you know what I mean, those corporate designations, right? You know, the trans, the gay, all that type of stuff. That is literally economic designations. It's advertisers care. Human resources. What is it? This is all money, right? That's where all this come from. This is, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Marx, Carlyle, all that shit, right? This is, you know what I mean? The cash matrix. This is money taking over the things that humans used to do. Important understanding. Religion used to do. Community ties used to do, right? Different festivals used to do. The stuff that used to be important because like you needed to do it. I'm not offering any solutions here. I'm just pointing some stuff out and putting this out here because I think it's important. So listen, Tom Pease with Pnoid News. If you enjoyed this content, do me a favor. Like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you share the shit out because, like, you know, YouTube smashes me in the algorithm and they hate me. All right? I love y'all. I'll holla at you later. Peace. I'm out.